Hey everyone, so in this lesson we're going to be doing further practice with graphing quadratic functions. So you definitely want to have your calculator out in front of you, and if you haven't done so already, you probably want to print out the worksheet that goes along with this video. Okay, so in this first example we want to graph the quadratic f of x equals x squared minus 3 over the given interval, -3 to 3. Okay, so that given interval is our domain or our x values. So I'm going to go ahead and fill them in on the table underneath the x column. So we got -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so to get my corresponding y values, I'm just going to go to my calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals x squared minus 3, hit second graph. And I want to copy the values in the calculator from -3 to 3. So these are my corresponding y values that I'm going to copy onto my paper. So we got 6, 1, -2, -3, -2, 1, 6. Okay. So then they want us to graph it and answer a couple of questions. So we got -3, 6, -2, 1, -1, -2, and bear with me because I'm graphing on the smartboard on my computer. -1, -2, 0, -3, 1, -2, 2, 1, and 3, 6. Okay, so when we connect those points, we want to use a nice curve. And I'm not going to include arrows because the question specifically says to only graph the interval -3 to 3. Okay, so the vertex or the turning point we can get from our graph, or we can also get it from our table because we know that the y values repeat around the turning point. So my turning point or my vertex is 0, -3. Okay, the axis of symmetry, so remember that's the vertical line that goes through the vertex. So since it's a vertical line, it always begins with x equals. So in this case, it's x equals 0. And since my graph opens upward, it has a minimum value. Okay, so now in the next part, they want the zeros of the function. So hopefully you remember from the last video that the zeros of a function are another word for x-intercepts. So where your parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay, so when you look at this graph, it's not easy to determine the x-intercepts because it doesn't cross at a nice point that we can easily read off of the graph. And I also can't determine the x-intercepts just by looking at my table. So in this situation, we're going to use our calculator. Okay, so first I'm going to take a look at what the graph looks like on the calculator. So I hit graph. All right, and again, I can't easily determine these x-intercepts because my parabola doesn't cross the x-axis at nice points. So we're going to go through the following procedure. All right, to find the x-intercepts, we're going to hit second, trace, and then we're going to go to option 2 where it says 0 because we're finding the zeros of our quadratic or the x-intercepts. Okay, so then you get a little blinker on your screen. So I'm going to find this x-intercept on the left-hand side first. So my calculator is asking for the left bound. So I want to move that blinker to the left of my x-intercept. Hit enter. Now the calculator is asking for the right bound. So I'm going to move that little blinker to the right of my x-intercept, so slightly below. Hit enter. And then the calculator says guess. So hit enter a third time, and it tells you that x-intercept is approximately negative 1.7. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my calculator to find the second x-intercept. So we're going to hit second, trace, option 2. So it's asking me for the left bound. So I want to be to the left of this x-intercept. All right, so I'm going to move it to the left, hit enter. Now it's asking for the right bound. So I'm going to move it to the right, hit enter, and then hit enter a third time. So this x-intercept is approximately 1.7. Okay, so when you can't easily determine the x-intercepts on the graph because it doesn't cross at a nice value, then you're going to have to use the calculator. Okay, so number 1 on the worksheet we're going to leave as practice for you guys. And then let's take a look at number 2. Okay, so number 2, they want us to graph the quadratic x squared plus 6x minus 1. All right, so we're going to go to y equals x squared plus 6x, not minus. Whoops. Plus 6x minus 1. Okay, so this time they didn't give us an interval, so we're going to have to search our table a little bit. So we hit second graph, and again, we want to search for where the y values repeat. So here I see we got negative 9 and negative 9, negative 6 and negative 6, negative 1 and negative 1. Okay, so we know our turning point is negative 310. So it looks like a good interval to graph would be from negative 6 to 0. Okay, so I'm going to copy the values from negative 6 to 0 onto my paper. So negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0. And then my corresponding y values are negative 1, negative 6, negative 9, negative 10, negative 9, negative 6, negative 1. Okay, so let's graph this. So negative 6, negative 1, negative 5, negative 6, negative 4, negative 9, negative 3, negative 10, negative 2, negative 9, negative 1, negative 6, and 0, negative 1. Okay, so this time when I connect the points, I'm going to include arrows because they did not give us a specified interval. Okay. And then we label. All right, so we know that our vertex is negative 3, negative 10. Okay, our axis of symmetry is the vertical line going through the vertex, so that's going to be x equals negative 3. Okay, the roots, again, are another word for x-intercepts or solutions or zeros. Okay, so these 4 words all mean the same thing. Zeros, roots, x-intercept, solutions. So this is another question where I can't easily determine the x-intercepts based on the graph. So we're going to have to go back to our calculator. Okay, so I'm going to hit graph just to see what it looks like on my calculator. So again, I can't easily read these points. So we hit second, trace, go to option 2 where it says 0, and then I'm going to find this x-intercept on the left side first. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the left of that point. Hit enter. Now it's asking for the right bound. So I'm going to go to the right of that point, so slightly below it. Hit enter. And then hit enter again. So we get approximately negative 6.2. So that's our first x-intercept. X equals negative 6.2. Okay. Then we're going to hit second, trace, option 2 again, and now I'm going to find my x-intercept on the right. So I'm going to scroll all the way over. I want to be to the left of that point, hit enter. Scroll a little more. They want the right bound, hit enter, and then guess. So this x-intercept is approximately 0.2. All right, and then this graph, because it opens upward again, has a minimum value.